everybody. This is going to be a really quick video, but in some of the in-person stuff that I've been doing in the last 2 weeks, one of the things that I've noticed that we need some work on is basic focus technique. Now that we've got the basic idea of how exposure works, we want to think a little bit more about making our pictures look good. And one of the things we really need to make that happen is control over our focus. So let's review the basics of focus. The first thing is that the focus, your camera, in the old days you just twist a dial and you would focus at a certain distance. So everything within that distance range of your depth of field within that distance would be in focus. So if you've got f8 or so and you're shooting something that's about 10 feet away, you would have maybe, this much of the picture from front to back would be in focus. So if you were shooting me, you focus on my face, then a little bit in front of my face would be in focus and several feet behind me would also be in focus at f8. If you were to go to f16, you get a little bit more in front of me and even more behind me so that the background would be all there. At f1.4, you will focus on my eyes, then my ears won't be in focus. So, but it's all distance that matters. Autofocus, what autofocus does is it lets you find an area of high contrast in a picture, so something that doesn't blend in. If you're shooting me, you can grab my glasses very easily, but if you try to focus on like my cheek or something like that, it's smoother stuff, and the autofocus wouldn't grab that. Now, where we get confused sometimes is we think, well, that's what I'm focusing on, but that's actually what's just helping you find that distance. So even if you focus on this, this eye, if this eye is the same distance from the camera, it's also going to be in focus. If I'm turned like this, then depending on your depth of field, maybe this eye won't be in focus anymore, but it's the distance. So that's what focus basically does. Now, this is the Canon T6 that you guys are mostly all using. And there are some autofocus controls that you should all know. The first and simplest is this AF, and I'm trying to do it backwards. AF, MF switch right there. Always keep that on AF. If it's on MF, that's manual focus, and you don't want that. The camera's not really designed to help you manually focus very well. So keep that on AF. Okie doke. Let's take a look at some of these buttons on the back. We'll flip the camera on. We hit the AF button, and that gives you three choices: one shot, AI focus, and AI servo. One shot will lock the focus in place with a little beep beep, and then you can just recompose your shot as you want, and the focus doesn't change after it's been chosen. AI focus lets the AI in the camera decide whether you want to do AI servo or AI one shot. I never use that because I never like to let the camera think for itself. AI servo means that as long as you're holding down the focus button, the camera will continue to adjust the focus, tracking whatever is in front of the focus box. That's what we use most of the time, because if you want to lock the focus, you can just take your thumb off the focus button and you're good to go. So when you set that up, make sure that you've got it set to AI servo. Then this button here gives you your manual selection points. If you can cycle through by using the little arrow keys. You can also use the shutter dial. When it's set to automatic selection, the camera is going to look for whatever has the most contrast and is nearest to the camera. Let's not do that because I'd rather you have control. You can always do the center button, the center point, and then if you need to recompose it after you've picked your focus point, focus, then move the camera around, and it works as long as you don't move the camera closer or further away. But if you want something in a corner, it might be easier to go there and then you take your shot. If you're still shooting in live view, none of that matters because you're just moving your little box around pretty much anywhere you want on the screen. And then you hold down the focus button here until it goes beep beep. That's what one shot focus looks like. And we can adjust our exposure there so that we've got something that works. Focus, beep beep. The alternative is to turn that off and look through the little viewfinder there. The advantage of that is that you get a much faster response, and it will continually track now. So you don't get the little beep beep, but it's going to update your tracking as you go, and I get that shot. There's another video that I will link here that should give you some details on what that looks like through there. Basically, you've got those there's a little overlay on your mirror that looks just like this, only in red. And that lets you pick where you want to focus. So that's pretty much it. You choose your focus point, hold down the focus button to make it go, and then fire your shot off. If you're shooting through the optical viewfinder, and the thing you want to focus on, let's say you want it kind of near that corner, but it doesn't line up exactly with that focus point. You select that, you focus first, and actually let's just do it in live view. So I want the Canon to be in perfect focus, right? But I don't want it to be in the middle there. Now that I've focused it, this is called focus recompose. I can then move, I'm tilting the camera up. I don't need to refocus because the distance between me and that strap has not changed. So once you lock that focus, then you can turn it around and you can recompose that however you want it to be. And that's what people have been doing for years to compensate for autofocus systems that don't have the autofocus points exactly where they want them. You get it as close as you can, and then once your focus is in place, you recompose your shot. All right, I hope that helps, and we're gonna move on to the next project now, so good. Play with that. The more you get comfortable with it, the easier it'll be.